Welcome to Security Thursday Leadership and Digital Sovereignty. This is not just about security controls or frameworks. It's about responsibility, clarity, and the decisions that shape how secure an organization really is.
Exactly.
So, to kick things off for you listening today, I want you to imagine something. Imagine your company just spent, I don't know, let's say $5 million.
A decent budget.
Right, a very decent budget on the most advanced, state-of-the-art digital vault in the world. I mean, you've got biometric scanners.
Yeah.
You've got armed guards at the physical locations.
The whole 9 yards.
Yeah, whole 9 yards. You got these steel doors that weigh like 3 tons. On paper, it is completely impenetrable.
On paper, sure.
Right, but then it's 4:55 p.m. on a Friday.
Oh, I know where this is going.
You do. An exhausted warehouse manager, just someone who wants to go home, props that 3-ton steel door open with a plastic trash can.
Yep.
And why? Because it is just way too inconvenient to scan their thumbprint every single time they have to carry a box inside.
It's friction. Humans hate friction.
Exactly. So today, we are dedicating this deep dive to talking about the trash can.
The trash can is the real threat.
It really is. Whether you're a CEO looking at a risk dashboard, or an IT director trying to get budget, or just a professional trying to navigate this incredibly fragile digital landscape, our mission today is to completely dismantle a very specific illusion.
A very dangerous illusion.
Very. And that illusion is the belief that organizational security is just a technical problem, that you can solve it by, just buying more tools.
Which is what everyone tries to do.
Right. So we are diving into a really fascinating body of work today by Stephen A. Davis. Specifically, we're unpacking his resonance brief, May 2026.
Right, which translates to the moment before the answer.
Exactly. We're going to look at that along with his broader writings on digital sovereignty and systemic leadership. Because we really want to explore why your organization's security doesn't fail because you forgot to buy the latest enterprise software.
No, it fails because of a lack of clarity, a systemic lack of clarity.
Exactly. So let's just start right there, that trash can metaphor.
Yeah, I mean, that metaphor captures the exact failure point we see in modern enterprises all the time.
Literally all the time.
We're so used to looking at security through this purely technical lens. But Davis's material connects IT infrastructure directly to human psychology.
And to executive leadership, right?
Yes. The core thesis here is actually pretty stark. He argues that security is not a control problem. It is a maturity indicator.
A maturity indicator.
Right. It's a harsh, unfiltered reflection of an organization's actual culture, not the idealized culture written on the frosted glass in the boardroom.
Not the core values poster.
Exactly, the actual culture.
Well, I mean, let's talk about the illusion of tools, because that's a massive paradox the texts point out. If you're listening to this, just look at your own organization right now.
You probably have a lot of tools.
So many tools. We live in an era where companies have never possessed more sophisticated tech.
Oh,
We have web application firewalls, intrusion prevention systems, data loss prevention software.
Zero trust architectures.
Right. Zero trust everywhere. We have dashboards blinking with 1 million metrics. And yet, and this is the paradox, despite spending tens of millions on these safety nets, leaders feel more insecure today than they did 10 years ago.
They do. And the vulnerability isn't shrinking.
No, it feels like it's metastasizing. Why is that?
Well, the insecurity is growing because we've confused infrastructure with posture.
Posture.
Yeah. The source text uses this highly specific German concept here. The word is Haltung.
Haltung. Okay, how does that translate?
It translates roughly to your inner posture, your attitude,
Yeah.
your foundational stance on things.
Okay, so how does that relate to the tools?
Well, think about how those tools actually work. Take a web application firewall, a WAF. It's not just a dumb brick wall.
Right.
It's supposed to be like a highly paranoid bouncer at the front door of a digital club.
Okay, I like that.
Right. It's checking every single ID, looking for malicious code that's trying to sneak in through a web form.
In an intrusion prevention system.
That's like a network of internal security cameras. They can automatically lock the doors if they see someone running down the hallway with a crowbar.
So they're active defense mechanisms.
Active, yes, but they're entirely dependent on the rules given to them by humans.
Ah.
So if the club manager walks up to that W bouncer and says, hey, the marketing department just hired a new vendor, just let them through without checking their ID because we have a huge campaign launching tomorrow.
Then the tool is completely useless.
Exactly. The bouncer steps aside. You can buy all the unified threat systems on the market. But if your organizational halt, your posture, is to avoid making difficult decisions when business units complain about friction.
Then those tools are just blinking decorations.
Incredibly expensive blinking decorations, yes.
Wow. Okay, so the text is arguing that the most critical element of security isn't the software deployment at all.
No, it's not. Davis states that the most important second of a decision is often not the decision itself.
It's what?
It's the moment right before it.
The moment before the answer, like the title of the letter.
Exactly. It's the pause.
The pause. Okay, unpack that for me.
It's that tiny, quiet space where a leader chooses whether to react out of habit and stress or to respond with absolute clarity.
And systemic responsibility.
Right, because so many leaders just act fast. Speed is culturally coded as decisiveness.
It looked like progress, right?
It looks great on a performance review, but Davis warns that when we skip that 1 second of reflection, we aren't leading, we're just reacting to the loudest voice in the room.
Okay, wait, I don't buy that.
You don't.
No, not entirely. I mean, I have to push back here because that sounds like a really wonderful academic luxury.
Tell me where it breaks down for you.
Because in reality, leaders are made to be decisive.
Sure.
The market demands sheer velocity. I mean, digital transformation is entirely about speed to market right now.
It is.
So pausing looks exactly like hesitation. If a VP of engineering or a lead developer pauses every single time they make a digital choice just to reflect on their internal hold tongue,
The company grinds to a halt.
it grinds to an absolute halt. That sounds beautiful in a leadership seminar. But what happens in the trenches?
It gets messy.
Right. You can't just talk about hold tongue to a room full of furious investors who want to know why a product release is delayed.
Oh, I'd actually go a step further. The board won't just be furious. They will actively look to replace the person who is slowing things down.
Exactly. So how is this realistic?
Well, let's look at the actual hidden cost of that velocity you're defending.
Okay.
The text doesn't argue that fast decisions are inherently wrong. Fast is fine. The problem is unreflected decisions.
Unreflected.
Yes. When you prioritize speed over clarity, you generate what the author calls massive consequence costs.
Folge-Kosten.
Right, Polge-Kosten. True leadership isn't about moving fast just to prove you can keep up with the market. It's having the courage to tolerate the extreme discomfort of that pause.
But practically speaking, how does a mid-level manager tolerate that discomfort when their job is literally on the line?
It's hard.
If the momentum of the entire organization is pushing toward a Friday release, pausing feels like career suicide.
It does feel like career suicide, and that is exactly why security is a leadership failure, not a technical one.
Because the leadership creates that pressure.
Exactly. Let's use a physical analogy here. Taking a pragmatic shortcut in IT, like skipping a code review to hit a deadline, it's like using a copper penny to replace a blown fuse in your house.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it keeps the lights on tonight.
It keeps the lights on tonight. The family is happy. The TV is working. You look like a hero who solved the problem really quickly.
Yeah.
But because you bypass the safety mechanism, you have mathematically guaranteed that the house will burn down next month when a power surge hits.
Because the fuse can't trip.
Exactly. So what Davis is pointing out is that tools like an intrusion prevention system can protect your digital house from known external threats. But only a leader's haltung, their willingness to say, no, we do not put pennies in the fuse box, even if it means sitting in the dark for an hour.
That prevents the internal fire.
It prevents the systemic rot of bad, unreflected internal decisions. If you don't pause, you are delegating your executive responsibility to the blind momentum of the organization.
And momentum usually favors the path of least resistance.
Always.
Which honestly transitions us perfectly into where organizations completely misunderstand risk.
Yeah, let's get into that.
If you're listening to this and thinking, well, my team uses highly secure internal networks, we're safe, consider this.
Yeah.
When we picture a cyber threat, we are culturally conditioned to picture a malicious hacker.
Like a teenager in a dark room.
Right. Wearing a hoodie, violently breaking through a firewall, typing green code on a black screen.
Hollywood style.
Hollywood style. But the sources highlight that the most devastating company-ending risks rarely start with a malicious attack.
No, they don't.
They start with a pragmatic, well-intentioned shortcut by your own people.
Let's just give them global admin access for an hour to fix this database bug.
Yes.
We'll run the full penetration test after the weekend release. We just need to get this out the door today.
Just use the root credentials. For now, we'll create a proper least privileged service account next week when things quiet down.
Right. It's always when things quiet down, which they never do.
Ever. It's this illusion of efficiency. In the moment, it doesn't feel like you are creating a vulnerability.
Not at all.
It feels like you are solving a business problem. You are keeping the gears turning.
But Davis introduces a framework to combat this. He calls it the consequence compass.
The consequence compass. I love this concept. Let's break it down.
It asks one radically simple but deeply uncomfortable question.
Which is?
What is the absolute worst-case consequence of this specific decision?
Just that.
Just that. It demands that you think the responsibility through to the very bitter end of the chain reaction.
Because it's not just about the immediate fix.
No. Systemic security isn't about whether a rule exists in some employee handbook that literally nobody reads.
Right, gathering dust on the intranet.
Exactly. It is entirely about whether people dare to act securely when it is intensely inconvenient to do so.
And it is always inconvenient. Security is, by definition, friction.
Pure friction.
But there's a phrase from the text that hit me so hard here. It says, systems remember longer than meetings last.
That is the mechanical reality of technical debt.
Let's unpack the mechanics of that, because everyone knows this feeling. You're sitting in a Zoom meeting.
The pressure is on.
The pressure is on. A client is threatening to churn. And everyone in the meeting agrees to a quick, dirty workaround just to hit a deadline.
Just for today.
Right, just for today. The meeting ends. Everyone closes their laptops. They go grab a coffee. They forget about the compromise, and they move on to the next fire.
But the system doesn't forget.
The system never forgets.
No, it doesn't. That quick workaround you authorized today, let's say, hard-coding a database password into a configuration file because the secret management vault was acting up.
Classic.
It becomes a permanent structural vulnerability tomorrow.
It's hard-coded.
The system holds on to that exception. 6 months later, the people who made the decision might have left the company entirely.
The context of the meeting is totally gone.
Gone, but the hard-coded password is still there, just quietly waiting for an automated script to find it.
Wow.
Every single small exception you make is literally written into the system's DNA.
That makes perfect sense. But honestly, I think you're still ignoring something really important here.
Okay, what am I ignoring?
You're describing leadership without consequences.
How do you mean?
Well, think about the actual pressure on that VP of engineering we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Let's say they use the consequence compass. They look at the worst-case scenario of that database workaround, and they decide, you know what? We need to delay this major multi-million-dollar product launch by 2 weeks for a thorough security review.
A brave decision.
Sure, brave. But the board doesn't care about the abstract risk of a potential breach in 2 years. They care about the quarterly earnings call next week.
They care about the stock price.
Exactly. It's a stock price.
Yeah.
So the VP who delays the launch might literally get fired for, I don't know, lacking execution speed.
Oh, they definitely might.
So isn't this just idealism? You're asking people to prioritize an abstract, invisible risk over their actual paycheck, their mortgage, their career progression.
That is the brutal, uncomfortable truth of the corporate world. You're absolutely right. The pressure absolutely dictates the behavior.
So how is this practical?
Because we have to look at what happens systemically when leadership bows to that pressure.
Okay.
If the board or the CEO rewards speed over safety every single time.
Which they usually do.
Right. If the VP who ships on time with gaping vulnerabilities gets the 6-figure bonus, and the VP who delays for security gets reprimanded or fired,
What does that do?
they are actively teaching the entire organization a lesson.
They're teaching them that security is just a suggestion.
Actually, it's far worse than a suggestion. They are teaching the organization that security is just a theatrical performance.
Compliance theater.
Exactly. Compliance theater. You fill out the ISO 27001 checklist so the legal team has an alibi, but everyone from the interns all the way up to the senior architects, they all know the real unwritten rule of the company is never slow down the release.
Wow.
This is exactly where systemic responsibility lies. If leadership compromises on the pragmatic shortcuts because of market pressure, the compromise doesn't just happen once.
It becomes a pattern.
The compromise becomes your culture.
The compromise becomes your culture. Man, that is heavy.
It's the reality.
Let's test this against the highly specific scenario from the sources, because we need to see how this holds up in the crucible of real-world pressure.
Let's do it.
Let's say it is Friday at 4:00 p.m.
Oh, the classic danger zone for every IT department in the world.
The ultimate danger zone. So a massive new software feature is scheduled for a 5.00 p.m. launch.
Okay.
The marketing emails are all queued up to hit 1 million inboxes. The PR press release is sitting with journalists under embargo.
High stakes.
Very high stakes. The CEO has personally promised this exact feature to institutional investors on the last earnings call. Tens of millions of dollars in valuation are riding on this single deployment.
So the momentum is unstoppable.
Exactly. But suddenly, at 4:05 p.m., the lead security engineer bursts into the boardroom. They are sweating.
Oh, no.
They just found a critical authentication vulnerability. It's a zero-day level flaw in their own proprietary code.
Meaning if it ships.
If this software ships at 5:00 p.m., user data, financial records, personal messages is wide open to exposure.
This is it. This is the exact moment where the security posture of the entire organization is forged.
Right there in that room.
Not in the annual mandatory compliance training video that everyone plays on mute in the background while they check emails.
Right?
Right here. How the CEO reacts in the next 60 seconds dictates the company's culture for the next decade.
Because culture isn't the poster in the break room. It's what happens when fear and revenue violently collide.
Beautifully put.
So if the CEO looks at the engineer and says, look, we promised the investors, ship it at 5:00, we'll build a patch over the weekend and quietly push it on Tuesday. What did they just do?
They just destroyed the immune system of the company.
How so?
They told that lead engineer explicitly that their diligent work is secondary to optics.
Wow.
Think about the psychology of that engineer. The next time they find a critical flaw at 4:00 p.m. on a Friday, they won't burst into the boardroom.
Why bother?
Exactly. They know it's pointless. They will keep their head down, log a low-priority JIRA ticket to cover their own liability, and go home to have dinner with their family.
And that, mathematically, is how massive breaches happen.
Yes. True leadership in that moment is having the massive, terrifying emotional maturity to look at the room and say, stop the launch.
Even with the investors.
Yes. Call the PR firm. We take the hit to our reputation and our stock price today to protect our users tomorrow.
Which requires a terrifying amount of bravery.
It's the only way.
Let's pivot. Actually, no, let's not pivot. Let's stay right in that feeling of panic, because it connects perfectly to another concrete example from the text.
Okay.
That sheer panic a person feels when things go wrong. Imagine a stressed mid-level developer.
Okay.
It's late. They're rushing to push some code before they log off for the day. And they accidentally hard-code an AWS administrative credential, an API key, with root access into a public GitHub repository.
Oh, man. It is a nightmare scenario, but structurally, it happens constantly.
They literally just left the master skeleton keys to the company's entire digital infrastructure on the public internet.
Yep.
Let's walk through the physiological reality of that moment.
Yeah.
The developer hits push. A minute later, they realize what they did.
The realization sets in.
Their stomach drops.
Yeah.
Their heart rate spikes to like 140. They start sweating profusely. Now, the text talks heavily about psychological safety in these moments.
It does. It's a core concept.
But, and here's my issue, that assumes people behave rationally, which they don't when they are terrified.
True.
If someone leaves the digital vault wide open through sheer negligent carelessness, shouldn't there be severe consequences?
It's a natural reaction to want to punish them.
Right. If we just hug them and talk about psychological safety, aren't we incentivizing gross negligence? That breaks down under pressure, doesn't it? If there's no fear of punishment, where's the rigor?
I get why you feel that way. But you have to ruthlessly separate accountability from fear.
Okay, how?
Let's look at the mechanics of the breach. If your culture is toxic, punishing, and driven by fear,
Right.
if that developer knows that leaking a key means they will be publicly shamed or fired on Monday morning, what are they going to do in that physiological state of panic?
They're going to try to cover it up.
They will try to cover it up immediately. They will desperately try to quietly delete the commit. They will spend 45 minutes Googling how to rewrite Git history.
Just panicking.
Doing everything in their power to hide the failure to save their livelihood. But here's the technological reality. Automated scraping bots are crawling GitHub 24/7.
Right.
They use regex patterns to identify things that look exactly like AWS keys, and the bot finds the key in milliseconds.
Milliseconds, while the developer is still hyperventilating.
Exactly. The bot grabs the key, pings the AWS API to verify it has admin rights, and instantly sells it on an automated dark web marketplace.
So fast.
Because the developer stayed silent for an hour trying to fix it themselves, they didn't escalate it to the Security Operations Center.
And by the time they do,
By the time the security team notices anomalous behavior on Monday morning, the ransomware actors have already mapped the network. They've exfiltrated the customer database, and they've encrypted the backups.
just because of that 1 hour of silence.
Because silence is the ultimate vulnerability. Silence destroys organizations.
Wow.
Psychological safety is not a soft skill.
Mm.
It is not corporate coddling. It is a hard operational security control.
How so?
Psychological safety is the mechanism that ensures the developer, despite their racing heart, immediately picks up the phone. They call the security lead and they say, "I messed up. I leaped a root key."
And what does that do?
That allows the security team to revoke the key in 5 minutes, turning it into a dead piece of text before the bot can exploit it.
Okay.
Without psychological safety, the mistake is discovered by hackers today and by the board of directors 5 months from now when the ransom note appears.
That's a brutal timeline.
When Stiffen Davis says that culture is a security control, this is the mechanical, operational reality of what that means.
So the goal isn't to say mistakes don't matter. The goal is to make the environment safe enough that the mistake is visible instantly.
Yes. You can hold someone accountable for a process failure. You can review why the secret scanning tools didn't catch it in the first place. But you can do that without making them terrified for their ability to pay rent.
If you punish the honesty, you mathematically guarantee future deception.
Exactly.
Man, that terror of human error, that fear that a single tired developer can bring down $1 billion company, that is exactly why organizations are currently sprinting toward our next topic.
Oh, yes.
I mean, we've talked about technology trends in previous deep dives, but artificial intelligence is flooding into the corporate space, specifically because we think if we hand the thinking to the machine, we eliminate the human error.
It's the new magic bullet.
But the sources we're analyzing today reveal a really unexpected, insidious perspective here.
They're very insidious.
The real danger of AI, according to Davis, isn't shadow AI. It's not corporate data scraping or clever prompt injections by hackers. The true systemic threat is something he calls cognitive Bequemlichkeit.
Cognitive convenience.
Cognitive convenience.
This is arguably the most vital concept in the entire resonance brief.
Walk me through it.
When organizations adopt enterprise AI, they are mesmerized by the speed and the fluency of the output. But subconsciously, what humans are doing is delegating their thinking, their critical judgment, and ultimately their responsibility to the machine.
Because it's easy.
We are biologically wired to conserve energy. The brain is a cognitive miser. So when a machine produces a brilliantly formatted, authoritative-sounding report in 3 seconds, the human brain happily powers down.
It just accepts it.
We start to confuse the astonishing speed of the AI output with the actual quality or truth of that output.
I mean, I'll admit it right now. The first time ChatGPT wrote a complex regex macro for my spreadsheet in 3 seconds, my brain just completely turned off.
You felt like a genius.
I felt like a wizard. I didn't care if the code was perfectly secure or if it had edge case vulnerabilities. I just wanted to go to lunch early. We get incredibly lazy because the AI sounds so confident.
And that biological laziness is a profound organizational security risk. Because systemic responsibility is inherently non-delegable.
Non-delegable.
You can delegate the drafting of a task to an AI, but you cannot delegate the liability for the result.
That's a great distinction.
If an AI generates vulnerable boilerplate code, or if it drafts a data privacy policy that contains a massive compliance loophole, the AI doesn't get sued by regulators.
No.
The AI doesn't lose its market reputation. The AI doesn't have to explain the breach to the shareholders. You do.
The machine doesn't carry the consequence.
Right. AI doesn't replace responsibility. It acts as a cultural mirror. It amplifies the culture that is already present in your organization.
So if you already have an issue,
If you have an unclear posture, if your people are already avoiding taking ownership and leaning on pragmatic shortcuts, AI scales that uncertainty and that laziness at light speed.
so what does digital sovereignty actually mean for daily decision-making in an AI-driven office?
It means taking back control of the judgment.
But if we aren't supposed to blindly trust the wizard in the machine, how do we use it without losing our minds and checking every single line of code manually?
The source material outlines a very practical daily defense against this cognitive convenience. It proposes 3 necessary, structured, reflective questions that every single team must ask before utilizing an AI output.
Okay.
It forces the pause we talked about earlier.
Let's hear them.
Question number 1. What surprises me about this output?
Okay.
Question number 2. Where could this be wrong or flawed?
Sure.
And question number 3. What is possibly missing from this perspective?
Okay, hold on. I have to interrupt here.
Go ahead.
Because this completely defeats the entire purpose of buying an enterprise AI in the first place.
How so?
The whole point of spending $10 million on an AI integration is to eliminate friction, to go faster.
Beat again.
If my engineering team has to sit around in a circle and spend 3 minutes philosophizing about every single AI-generated code snippet,
Yes.
or if my marketing team has to debate what is missing from an AI-generated email campaign, we lose our competitive edge. The market will crush us while we are busy pondering our digital sovereignty.
I see the tension. It feels like you are applying the emergency brakes on a bullet train.
Exactly. It feels archaic. Why buy the train if you're going to pull the brake?
But here's the uncomfortable reality you have to weigh that against. You have to look at the Folgekosten.
The consequence costs.
Right. 3 minutes of structured reflection prevents hours, weeks, or sometimes months of catastrophic crisis management.
Is it really that traumatic, though?
Absolutely. If you ship AI-generated code that contains a subtle authentication logic flaw because nobody took 3 minutes to ask where could this be wrong,
Then what?
the 3 days of speed you gained in the development sprint is instantly obliterated
Obliterated by what?
by the weeks of system downtime. By the emergency patch deployment over a holiday weekend, by the class action lawsuits, by the customer trust you just burned to the ground. The speed is a total illusion if it is actively accelerating you toward a cliff.
I guess that's true.
True digital sovereignty doesn't mean you build your own servers from scratch or that you refuse to use AI. It means owning your judgment.
Using it as a tool, not a replacement.
Exactly. It means you use the machine as a lever to multiply your capabilities, not as a replacement for human critical thinking. When you outsource your judgment to a system, you haven't become more efficient. You've just become a passenger in a vehicle you no longer control.
Owning your judgment. That requires a level of organizational maturity that I think a lot of places simply lack.
Many do.
Which leads perfectly into the next major theme from the sources.
Huh.
Systemic understanding.
Yes.
The text uses a great German phrase here, the Sicherheitslücke.
The human security gap.
Exactly. But it frames it very differently than the usual cybersecurity industry rhetoric. Usually when we hear humans are the weakest link, we think it means humans are stupid.
Because they click on phishing emails about fake Amazon packages.
Right. But Davis suggests the biggest gap is actually a profound lack of systemic understanding across the organization.
Yes. And this is where we see the anatomy of complex breaches. Organizations naturally, almost biologically, organize themselves into silos.
Every department doing its own thing.
Right. The IT department buys a new web application firewall. The marketing department launches a massive new data gathering campaign on a separate third-party SaaS platform.
The HR department implements a new cloud-based payroll system.
Exactly. Everyone is looking downward at their own little square of the chessboard, optimizing for their own departmental KPIs.
But the attackers aren't looking at squares.
Attackers don't think in departments. They don't care about your internal org chart. They look at the entire system from a holistic viewpoint, and they specifically hunt for the seams between the silos.
The gaps where nobody thinks it's their job.
Precisely.
The marketing team assumes IT secured the new SaaS platform.
And IT assumes marketing vetted the vendor's security compliance before signing the contract.
And right in that ambiguous gap, that void of responsibility, is where the breach happens.
Complexity is the absolute enemy of a security culture. The more complex, fragmented, and siloed your systems are, the easier it is for responsibility to diffuse into nothingness.
If a system is too complex to understand, no one person feels responsible for its failure.
Exactly.
The texts bring up UTM, Unified Threat Management. But interestingly, they don't bring it up as a technical pitch for a specific product.
No, they don't.
They use it as a leadership analogy.
Right. Technically, UTM is about bringing various security features, firewalls, intrusion detection, content filtering into a single unified dashboard or appliance.
But the leadership lesson Davis extracts here is profound.
It is. He says that simplifying systems is a strategic executive move to create visibility.
What is central is seen. What is seen can be led.
Exactly. If your security architecture is so labyrinthine that no single senior architect understands how it all connects, you cannot lead it.
You can't govern what you can't see.
You are just reacting to isolated alarms in the dark, hoping the noise eventually stops.
What is seen can be led. I love that. It strips away the tech jargon and makes it a purely human issue of visibility.
It really does.
But here is where the text gets incredibly deep, almost philosophical, but with massive operational implications.
You're talking about Im das Wischen.
Yes. Stephen Davis introduces this concept of Im das Wischen in the in-between. And we need to spend some real time on this because this challenges the entire rhythm of the modern workday.
It is a beautiful, challenging, and frankly countercultural concept.
How so?
Corporate culture is utterly obsessed with visible, measurable action. We want to see people typing furiously on keyboards. We want to see calendars packed back-to-back with Zoom meetings.
We want dashboards with graphs that are constantly updating in real time.
Right. We have neurologically equated visible movement with actual progress.
Activity equals value. If I'm sweating, I must be working hard.
Precisely the trap. But the text argues that true learning, deep systemic understanding, and genuine organizational security rarely happen during the visible action.
When do they happen?
They happen in the quiet moments after the action has stopped. They happen in the in-between, im dazwischen.
Like when?
It's the silent drive home in your car after the grueling crisis management meeting. It's the quiet half hour the next morning after the major server outage is resolved.
Just drinking a cup of coffee.
Right. When you sit back with that coffee and finally understand why the cascading failure happened, rather than just frantically patching the how.
But management systems entirely optimize for the visible. We optimize for what we can put in a spreadsheet.
Of course.
We demand more reports, more compliance checklists, more incident response metrics, because checking a box feels like doing security. It gives us a dopamine hit of completion.
And that dopamine hit creates a fatal false sense of security. It's action for action's sake. When we force our teams to constantly produce visible metrics, to jump from one sprint immediately into the next sprint without a breath, we rob them of the time required to sit in the in-between.
We don't let them digest.
We don't let them digest the complexity of the systems they are building. If you don't allow your people the cognitive space to reflect, they cannot develop the Haltung, the maturity and posture required to make safe decisions.
They will just keep reacting.
Faster and faster until the system breaks.
So we need to synthesize all of this. What does this all mean for the listener? We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
We've torn down the idea that spending millions on tools alone will save you. We've challenged the notion of speed at all costs, showing how technical debt burns the house down.
We redefined psychological safety from a soft HR concept into a hard operational security control that literally prevents ransomware.
And we've looked at the terrifying cognitive convenience of AI.
So if we draw all these threads together from Davis's work, the core insight is this. Security rarely fails because a specific piece of software was missing.
No.
It fails because of diffuse responsibility in complex systems. It fails because of cognitive convenience, where we happily let AI or bureaucratic processes do our critical thinking for us.
And fundamental.
Fundamentally, it fails because leadership cultivates a culture that avoids the friction of saying no or wait when under extreme market pressure.
The vulnerability isn't in the code. The vulnerability is in the culture that wrote the code, rushed the code, and ignored the exhausted engineers' warnings about the code.
That is the systemic reality.
So, to you listening, as you step back into your reality after this deep dive, here is a final provocative thought to take with you.
Okay.
Look around your office tomorrow morning. Look at the dashboards on your monitors. Look at the multi-page security policies sitting in your intranet that nobody reads.
Look closely.
Look at the shiny new AI tools your company just deployed with a massive press release. Look at them all and ask yourself one deeply uncomfortable question.
What's the question?
Are these tools actually empowering your team to make mature, safe, deeply reflected decisions in the heat of the moment? Or are they just elaborate, highly expensive bureaucratic alibis? Are they just systems designed to protect management from liability when things inevitably eventually go wrong?
That is the ultimate question of digital sovereignty. When the system fails, who actually owns the consequence?
Because at the end of the day, when the pressure is on, when the board is yelling, and when the digital systems break, you are the only firewall left. Security is not a control problem. It's a leadership decision.